Hi, welcome to the IndieWinePodcast. My name is Matt Wood, and this is The Trailer. My goal on this podcast will be to speak with winemakers, grape growers, merchants, and writers, most of which will be based in California. A large part of my inspiration has been the University of California Bancroft Library Oral Histories, where winemakers and family members from wineries such as Wente, Parducci, Ridge, Sebastiani, Silver Oak, Italian Swiss Colony, and many others were interviewed. I've found these interviews to be an invaluable source of wine information and hope to do them a little bit of justice here. I have some quick excerpts lined up from the first episodes, which will be posted shortly. In the meantime, you can follow us at IndieWinePodcast on Instagram or email IndieWinePodcast@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening today. In order of appearance on the trailer today, we have Noelle of Purity Wines, Laura from General Psychotic Activity, and Chad from Iruwai Wines.
People will ask me, well, what is natural wine? And now that's a much more kind of foggy, nebulous idea. And what I tell people now, I used to tell them a lot. I just tell them a few different things. But now what I've really liked to attach to is it's a response to industrialization, mostly because the idea is, like, I would tell people, I can't make natural wine without talking about farming. I got to talk about farming, and I can't talk about farming without talking about politics. That's the way it is. We got to think about our environment. At the end of the day, the earth isn't going to be here, forever. We're not going to be here forever, but there is something to taking care of the place that you live in.
The point is, keep it Californian, keep it as sustainable practice as possible, and make it drinkable, approachable wine. Yeah. We want to, we don't want to make super expensive or super, labor intensive or fancy stuff. It's more about what can we do that feels good to share with your friends at a point that feels comfortable, spending money on it and enjoying it on a beach day or a Tuesday pasta night or, even a Friday night before you go out. This was born out of camaraderie, and I think, continues to support that cause.
Yeah, well, here specifically is a little more extreme than the surrounding area. So we're having bud break in early to mid-May. Whereas, if you're in Sonoma County, you could see bud break in early February, late January sometimes. So really different in that sense. If you get to the Rogue Valley to the north or Trinity to the south, you're going lower in elevation and things are a little earlier than that. So depending on the year, at least 2 to 3 weeks earlier in those areas from where we are here. So here is a region that has a very short growing season, which is part of why I look to places that are also really high elevation with shorter growing seasons. But it is a pretty generous and warm growing season. So I've always described it as a hot growing season bookended by very cool extreme weather. So it kind of locks in a certain amount of acidity and structure, but then it's you do get this weird juxtaposing fruitiness too from that ripening season being so generous. So it's just very different. It's kind of it's its own expression.
Thanks for listening to the trailer of the Indie Wine Podcast. Full episodes will be available shortly. In the meantime, you can follow Indie Wine Podcast on Instagram or email IndieWinePodcast@gmail.com or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast today. Thanks. Have a good one.